the first bishop who it was my privilege to participate in his consecration. Hailing from California and a graduate of the Church Divinity School of the Pacific, Brian was the rector of the church in Twin Falls for a long time. What, 14 years was it? Yeah, 12 years, a long time. A long time. And he brought that church through many changes, and they experienced much growth and health, and became quite a different place from they were when I was in Idaho and when I knew them. But Brian was elected. It's always a special thing when someone is elected internally, because they know what they're getting themselves into. The people of Idaho soundly chose Brian. In the House of Bishops, I have no better and more trusted friend than Brian Thom. He is along with, there are four of us. There's a fearsome foursome. Brian Thom of Idaho, and Scott Hayashi of Utah, and Kurt Smith of Arizona. We constitute the Great Basin Bishops, and we meet to conspire against the church. And Brian is always, to me, a good and trusted advisor. He does his ministry and his leadership out of a humble and a deeply spiritual heart, in which he speaks the truth with a kind of kindness that makes it easier to hear. And his words and his presence are always a blessing. So I give you the Right Reverend Brian Thom.
Save that for later, will you? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much. I have to tell you, it's not just words off the top from a speaker, but I am blessed to be with you, and I'm already having a good time. I can't tell you what a relief it is to not be sitting right there. And to come and experience another diocese convention and see what you're all about and see how it's run. Because as some of you know, particularly the clergy know, you rarely get to see your colleagues doing the work that they do. Rarely do we get to hear each other preach. As bishops, we rarely get to see each other actually working. Sometimes at a House of Bishops, someone will serve, but it's just a rare privilege. And I must tell you, it's been a blessing to me already, and I've just been here 30 seconds in this spot. Well, my friend Chuck McCrae picked me up last night, your canon to the ordinary, and picked me up at the airport. It's wonderful to see a familiar face. I've been in your airport many times, but never out through the gate. So it's a delightful thing to have someone greet you there. And then from the very beginning of my experience, I think Chuck's still out in the hallway, so I'll tell the story about us. About the blessings I've already received here. We were pulling out of the airport up to the ticket booth. I'm dressed something like this. I'm on my phone checking in with my people back home as he's paying the tab. And the woman in the booth says to him, "Is that a priest?" Chuck confirms that I am indeed a priest. And then she says to me, "Will you pray for my daughter? She is the mother of Cammie Eubanks, who was killed here in Reno when the garbage truck ran over her in June. She has some of Cammie's ashes around her neck in a little vial. And she asked if I would pray for her. And in a tongue-in-cheek sort of way, her mother said, she better be there when I get there. So for Cammie, a moment, please. drove me into town, truck brought me to the hotel first so I could check in. I have to tell you, it was, you know the story about the country mouse coming to the city? That was me. I knew this was the biggest little town in America. I didn't know you had 2 signs that say it, just to remind you. But the lights and all the rest, so, and you know, there's no building in Idaho that's taller than 19 stories. So I'm doing the kind of gawking thing. And we come into the hotel lobby there, and the clerk begins to check me in. And he's processing this and all that, and when I looks up, he says, "Are you a priest?" Yes, I just always answer yes. I don't try to explain the difference. He says, "In my country," he's Filipino. "In my country," he comes out around, "when we meet a priest, he took my hand and held it to his forehead." He thought maybe I was blessing him. That's not true. And then with your touching testimony to the life and ministry of St. Stephen's, I have been blessed. And woe that it might happen, I'm also a little blessed by coveting the Bishop of Santiago's clergy shirt. I think they got this haberdashery thing down. So I'm pretty sure one of these days I'm going to see you. I was driving from Twin Falls, where I was the rector, over to one of the next towns called Mountain Home. It's about 95 miles away from Twin Falls. I was very excited because I was going to, it's the first time someone had asked me to come lead a vestry retreat. And it was pretty exciting. I was going to go and expound on my great knowledge as a rector and help this congregation really begin their journey. Did I say that it was 95 miles away? I had 85 miles worth of gas. So out of my file of stunningly prepared documents for the retreat, I pulled out the back of a yellow pad. I had a big marker, and I wrote gas on it, opened the trunk of my van, and sat on the back fender and held the sign up to the passing cars. Praying God, I had about 35 minutes. And I thought, let's just see what happens. This was just before cell phones. So there was no way for me to do anything other than to wait for my Good Samaritan. It's pretty hard to be a Good Samaritan at 75 miles an hour. Evidently. The letters were really big. There was no way you could have missed what my issue was. Finally, Bill stops. Takes him a while to back up to me, but it's only a few miles on into the town, to the gas station, so jump on in. This is where the first dilemma came, because for me, I'm about 6'1", jumping into his sports car. I jump in after he clears off the seat with his arm of pop cans and napkins and wrappers and things like that. The back seat is full of stuff. I think he lives in the car. I'm not kidding. He's driving barefoot. This inspires me. But now I've got 29 minutes. I get in, we go off to the gas station 10 miles away, buy the gas can, I get some gas. He fills up, says, "Okay, well, I'm taking you back." I said, "Well, thank you very much," because I hadn't figured out how I was going to do that part. And so we're driving back, and it was a great display of American ingenuity or something. You know those little places on the highway they say they're for emergency use only? Authorized vehicles only? He authorized us at that moment. And we pulled in behind my car, and he waited until I got the gas in, and he came back and says, "You know, well, thank you." And I said, thank you so much. It was so, you know, people who stops anymore. He says, "Well, it's good for my karma." I'm willing to grant anybody their karma. Help me fill my tank up with gas. And he says, so, and what was it you were doing? Well, I was going up to this town, I was going to go to this church meeting. He says, I was in civilian post. He says, well, what do you do? I said, well, I'm a priest. And he does this little thing in his seat, goes, double karma. You may have a story like that about some good Samaritan. And it's woe to me if I had to compare that episode with the namesake Lucan story that is your inspiration for this weekend. Because, there was a traveler in it, someone passing by. There was someone in need. I wasn't beaten or robbed, I was just stupid. Several did pass by, but semis and all the rest have to go whizzing by. We don't know what their excuse was or what their identity was. I was kind of hoping for that farmer with the gas can in his trunk, but that didn't happen. My person who stopped was a foreigner. He's from Colorado. But I didn't know anything else about him other than the things I described to you. I could not tell by looking at him that he was a blasphemer or a half-breed, as the Jews believed Samaritans were. In the story from Luke, in the exchange with the one learned in the law, a nice political correct way of avoiding the word lawyer, Jesus makes the point that the action of the person determined who was the neighbor, not the lineage, not the ethnic background, not the mountain on which he worshipped. And that person learned in the law, in that moment, was convicted and converted. You know how we know that? By his choice of words. When Jesus asked him, who proved neighbor to the man whose rod was left by the road? He says to Jesus, the one who showed him mercy. I want to look at these two words now that are in our midst. Neighbor and mercy. Who is your neighbor? Straight, easy answer is the one who is next to me or lives nearby. My wife and I moved this last year as we gathered our forces in Boise into a house that's in a neighborhood that has a homeowners association. The president of the homeowners association lives next door to me, so I got to do everything right. But so there's a neighbor because they're nearby. But in my housing association, there's also a bit of conformity to our neighborliness. I only had two choices of shingle color to put on my house. When the fence had to be replaced, it had to be exactly 5 feet high. And everybody on the block looks an awful lot like me. In 18 houses, there are 5 children. Everybody else is an empty nester, etc. So, they're nearby, and we all look alike. And I must say, there doesn't seem to be a lot of need, at least physically or socio-economically. So let's look at that neighbor thing again. Someone comes to you in your town, meets you at Kiwanis or Rotary, says, oh, I met that John Smith. He says he lives near you. Yeah, he lives down the street. Or, I met that John Smith. He said he lives near you. Oh yeah, he's my neighbor. Same house, same proximity, but for some reason, he's now not my neighbor. He lives down the street. be a neighbor, please, implies an intentional relationship. Maybe it's mutually dependent. Hopefully it's mutually beneficial. But let me proclaim to you that you are a neighbor to someone when you will make a commitment to them, when you will take a risk over some part of your relationship with them. Now, it may be that the risk will simply be that you don't get along. Maybe the neighbor will not agree to share the cost of the fence with you. Maybe his trees hang over your side and make a mess, and he won't do anything about it. But the real risk, if you're going to be someone's neighbor, is that you might be changed. And what about the lawyer's use of the word mercy? He could have said the neighbor was the one who showed kindness. The neighbor was the one who was helpful. The neighbor was the one who inconvenienced himself and went out of his way, spent a little bit of his own money. But in the Spirit's inspiration, he uses the word mercy. Undeserved compassion. Contraindicated compassion. Absurd compassion. Even dangerous. In Lucan's story, a dangerous compassion. Mercy, like neighborliness, runs the same risks. The person receiving it might not be aware they need it. Might not be welcome. Might be misunderstood. And oftentimes, if we've done it correctly, the mercy we've extended has gone unobserved by the recipient. Mercy, the giving of mercy. It's a powerful word. Remember that piece in 2 Corinthians, first verse of chapter 4, it rings in my heart all the time. I use it as the name of my column that I write for my clergy in my diocese. Paul writes, "It is by God's mercy that we have this ministry." By God's mercy, God being merciful to us as ordained and lay ministers. God is merciful to us by giving us this challenge, by giving us this call. Why merciful? Because it does something for us. God knows we haven't earned it. We don't warrant it. We don't have the skills to pursue it. But God, in God's mercy, gives us this ministry because he knows it will change us. The giving of mercy implies healing of brokenness. Brokenness healed by an act of intentional relationship. So you see that day on the road, the mercy of the Samaritan not only healed physical wounds, it healed other hurts. Remember, the victim, the man robbed and left to die, knew that his Samaritan was a Samaritan. As soon as he could cock an eye open, as whoever the stranger was lifting him up to set him on his own donkey, he could look at that human being and know by his clothing, perhaps his beard, perhaps the way he presented himself, clearly that he was not one of his, but one of those. Imagine the story told from his point of view. And then imagine the story told from the innkeeper's point of view, who also knew that a Samaritan was dragging a bloody man, unclean, etc., through the door. And then this Samaritan, the one who lives down the street, left him money. More was healed that day than cuts and bruises. So then, with thoughts of neighbor and mercy, how can we begin to answer the question, who is my neighbor? Your agenda is going to help. You're going to ask if Kenyans can be your neighbors. You're going to ask yourself if Haitians can be your neighbors. I hope you'll ask if Idahoans can be your neighbors. But if so, how are they and we going to qualify? Please don't use mere proximity. For God's sake, avoid conformity, or even simple need. Whoever you choose, they can be your neighbors if you are willing to be changed by them. If you're not willing to be changed as you enter into a relationship with them, they will never be your neighbor. No matter how many projects, how many resources you share, how many times you visit. If you attend to them only expecting to give, they are not your neighbor. But once a neighbor, then I promise you, in the nature of human beings, you will have an opportunity to offer undeserved compassion. There will come a moment in that relationship when the only response is mercy. But who gives it? And who willingly receives it? I would also ask that you consider this day, who else might be your neighbors? Would all of the senior wardens please stand? Please do receive the affirmation of these who are around you, but would you all please look around at each other? Senior wardens, behold your neighbor. Stay standing. Will the representatives, now you're going to figure this out yourselves, will the representatives of the two parishes that are the farthest apart in the Diocese of Nevada, please stand. The farthest apart, who are they? Bullhead City and?
Elko.
Okay, Ely and Elko, stand up.
Bullhead City.
Bullhead City. Episcopalians in these towns, behold your neighbors. Will the representatives from the two closest parishes, the two parishes that are closest in geography, so it says Trinity St. Paul's and who's the nearest neighbor? If you think it's you, would you please stand? My point being, of course, that the two closest Episcopal churches have particular opportunity. There are two of them close. I don't even know where they are. But if there are two of them that claim they're close, they are different. And yet I must say to you again, behold your neighbor. And now for the harvest. Would all the clergy please stand? Remember the definition. Those you are willing to be changed by, and those that you might consider one day offering or receiving undeserved compassion. Ordained brothers and sisters, behold your neighbors. Would you all please stand? And as you look about and behold these your neighbors, I pray and charge you to embrace a willingness to be changed, to risk, and to understand and be willing when the time is right, to offer or to receive an expression of undeserved compassion. Jesus said to them, which of these is a neighbor to the other? Pray that the people will say, the one who showed mercy. To which Jesus will say, go and do likewise. And the people say, Amen. Thank you very much.